Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So we'll start this lecture of one of the early lecture in physiology, endocrine physiology. So basically this lecture, I will discuss about the hypothalamus and hypothalamo-pituitary relationship. Right. And then next lecture, you will learn about the pituitary. So this one is basically before the pituitary. So we know that hypothalamus is the sort of commanding center that control the pituitary, and hypothalamus is the organ that connect endocrine system and the nervous system. So basically neuronal and endocrine link will occur through the hypothalamus. So therefore, we will discuss hypothalamus and hypothalamo-pituitary relationship in this lecture. Right. So these are the ILOs. You can read them later. And relevance, especially hypothalamus, is relevant clinically if there is a damage between hypothalamic and pituitary relationship. Some manifestation, endocrine manifestation, neurological manifestation will occur, right? So that is one important clinical, one important clinical conditions related to hypothalamus. So due to certain accidents, this damage will occur, this communication between hypothalamus and pituitary, and we might get problem. Of course, pituitary tumors and other damage to the this place can occur, some important clinical manifestations, right? I just want to show you this A-level syllabus, your advanced level syllabus, where we discuss hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid gland, almost other endocrine gland. So you have some idea gain in your advanced level, and we just build on, or we just add something to your advanced level knowledge, right? So this is the pituitary, and it's just above the pituitary we have hypothalamus, and this area is hypothalamus. And in the brain we have something called third ventricle, fluid filled space. Just below that we have this hypothalamus, and below that we have pituitary, right? So this communication between hypothalamus and pituitary is a very narrow communication. Here you can see it's very narrow. So there can be there's a possibility to damage this communication if with the injury to the head, especially if there's a sudden movement of head, this might damage. And in this diagram, you can see this is pituitary, and these are part of the hypothalamus, and two important nuclei. I will explain it later. And there's a very rich blood supply or vascular communication between hypothalamus and pituitary, right? And actually we call it a portal system. I will explain it. So just you to orientate the location and this skull, and the base of the skull we have this hypothalamus, sorry, pituitary, and above that we have hypothalamus, and this area is the hypothalamus, right? So as I mentioned earlier, we have pituitary, and let's take this thing. We have pituitary here, and we know that pituitary secrete many hormones that will target the other endocrine gland, like TSH for thyroid gland, uh, and FSH, for the reproductive hormone, like that. Pituitary secrete so hormone. Those hormone we call tropic hormone. Basically, tropic mean control the other, right? Pituitary secrete tropic hormone to control this other endocrine gland. Hypothalamus secrete tropic hormone to control the pituitary, right? So these are also tropic hormone. These are also tropic hormone. But this tropic hormone actually to control the pituitary hormone. So therefore, we give adjective to describe this tropic hormone, hypophysiotropic. So basically, hypophysio mean pituitary. Some other, I think, Latin word for the pituitary is hypophysio, hypophysics. So hypophysiotropic hormone mean hormones secreted from hypothalamus to control the pituitary, right? So this communication we call hypothalamotropic hormone communication, right? So in this diagram, we are talking about this communication, right? Hypothalamic hormone to control the pituitary, or we can call hypophysiotropic, right? This is hypothalamus. Hypophysics mean actually pituitary, right? So hypothalamo-pituitary target hormone axis, because this is some sort of axis, akshaya. What is this axis? We have hypothalamus on the top, then we have pituitary, and then we have target organ that can be hypothalamus, sorry, that can be thyroid, adrenal cortex, or any other organ, right? And this is some sort of axis to axis of endocrine regulation from hypothalamus, pituitary to target organ, right? That is related, that is one part related to hypothalamus. Then we have some other part. So that basically related to anterior pituitary. The same thing I will explain later. Then we have some other component that is related to posterior pituitary, right? So in this diagram, the previous diagram basically related to anterior pituitary hormone, but this diagram is related to posterior pituitary hormone. Two posterior pituitary hormone, that is ADH and oxytocin, actually secreted from hypothalamus neuron, right? So these are two types of neuron in the hypothalamus, right? These two types of neuron, so when it's a neuron, it's a nerve, right? So nerve cells secrete two hormones, but the ending of these neurons are actually located in the posterior pituitary, right? Cell bodies are in the hypothalamus. So these are very long, lengthy neuron. Their cell bodies are here in the hypothalamus, and they produce two hormones. But finally, these hormones are secreted to the posterior pituitary, right? So that is related to posterior pituitary. For the anterior pituitary, as I mentioned earlier, anterior pituitary hypothalamus secrete hormone. Through the blood, it will come to the posterior pituitary and, through the blood, it will come to the anterior pituitary and control the anterior pituitary. So that was hypothalamo-pituitary axis. This one we call hypothalamo-pituitary tract. This is the tract because it's a nerve tract. Neurons or cell body of the nerves are located in the hypothalamus, and neurons or nerves will go through this communication, hypothalamo-pituitary communication, and go to the posterior pituitary, and from the posterior pituitary, these two hormones secrete. Right? So it's a purely neuronal. There's no blood communication. So that's what it called tract. So these two types of neuron secrete two types of hormone, ADH and oxytocin. So therefore it's called hypothalamo-pituitary tract. ඒක නිකන් track එකක් related to posterior pituitary. Right? So the previous one is it's a purely endocrine communication. Right? So this one is a purely endocrine communication. So I need to erase this. Right? So this one is purely endocrine communication. And so this endocrine communication actually will occur through this blood circulation. What is that blood circulation? It's a special blood circulation, and we call hypothalamo-pituitary portal vessels, portal system. Right? So when it's a portal system, I hope you remember portal circulation of the liver. So what does that mean? කියන්නකො බලන්න. මොකද්ද portal circulation of liver කියන්නේ? So you learned in the previous module in anatomy. Yes. Yes. Yes, anybody? What is portal circulation related to liver?
The nutritions contained bed will collected to the portal vein and get into the liver.
Okay, so blood vessels will collect nutrient from where?
From intestines.
From intestine, and then so those collection will occur through the capillary system, right? And this blood will go to the liver, and what will happen in the liver? Basically, they will release into the liver, right? So blood collected from intestine, and then it released to the liver. So therefore, we call it a portal circulation from related to liver. So for the hypothalamus and pituitary, or between hypothalamus and pituitary, also we have portal circulation, where hormone collected from hypothalamus through the capillary system. So these are the capillary system. And this capillary will create a blood vessels and transport these blood vessels to the pituitary. And in the pituitary again, it will make capillary system and diffuse this blood to the capillary, to the pituitary. Okay. So here capillary system will collect the blood. Here capillary system will collect, or not really collect, distribute blood to the pituitary. Okay. So that is the hypothalamic pituitary portal system, portal vessels, and start from these capillaries and end in these capillaries. So basically this portal system is designed for the same purpose like in the intestine. So portal system in the intestine will collect nutrient and send it to the liver and distribute throughout the liver. So here hormone secreted from hypothalamus collected by these capillary and transport to the pituitary. Right? So what are the hormone? Hormone secreted from hypothalamus. This hormone will transport through this portal system to the pituitary. Because if there is no such a portal system, we don't get the very good, very high concentration of hypothalamic hormone to the pituitary. Okay. So that's the purpose of this portal system. Right. Okay, I hope it's clear. Right. So we have this portal system to transport anterior pituitary. Portal system will transport hypothalamic hormone to anterior pituitary. For the posterior pituitary, do we need a portal system? For the posterior pituitary. Posterior pituitary on the portal system. Posterior pituitary ඕනද portal system එක? 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 Posterior pituitary ඕනද portal system එක?
No,
No. Why?
because it is with a nerve connection.
Yes, it's with the nerve connection. As you can see, this green color are the nerve fibers. So we have this fiber set, this fiber, this nerve cells, and these nerve cells start from here and all the way go to the posterior pituitary and release hormone directly to the capillaries in the posterior pituitary, because these are neuron release hormone direct to the capillary. And nothing, we need not to have a blood supply to transport this posterior pituitary hormone to the from hypothalamus to posterior pituitary, because there's no such a hormone. Hormone will go through the nerves. Hormone produced to this neuron will secrete directly to the blood vessels in the posterior pituitary, right? So there's no hormone system for the posterior pituitary. Good. Right. So, yeah, just to describe these hypothalamic hormone. What are these hypothalamic hormone? Important for the regulation of anterior pituitary. So, what are these hypothalamic hormone? Right. So, you will learn about the pituitary hormone later, but I need to introduce pituitary hormone, because without that, I cannot explain the hypothalamic hormone. Right. So let's start from hypothalamic pituitary hormone, anterior pituitary hormone. We have something called prolactin. I'm sure you have heard about prolactin before endocrine. How are the prolactin? Prolactin. Right. So prolactin is important for the milk secretion. Prolactin secreted from pituitary, anterior pituitary. For the prolactin secretion is controlled by the prolactin inhibitory hormone, or other name is dopamine, from hypothalamus. So remember, it's a inhibitory. Mainly it's a inhibitory. So dopamine or prolactin inhibiting hormone inhibit prolactin secretion from hypothalamus. Right. So remember, it's a inhibitory hormone. Right. So that is the one main inhibitory hormone coming from hypothalamus. Some books might mention prolactin stimulatory hormone also, but that's not very dominant and that is not well described. So mainly for the prolactin, we have inhibitory hormone. Right? Prolactin inhibit karagana inna ka thamai karanne by the hypothalamus. So it's a mainly inhibitory hormone for the prolactin. Then TSH. TSH will act on where? Your advanced level. So that's what I mentioned your advanced level syllabus at the beginning. So TSH act on thyroid gland. TSH secrete from pituitary, act on thyroid gland. Hypothalamus secrete thyrotropin releasing hormone, TRH, to act on TSH. TRH will stimulate. So this is stimulate TSH from anterior pituitary. Then we have ACTH. What is the action of ACTH? ACTH is a pituitary hormone. It acts on adrenal cortex. For the ACTH is stimulated by CRH, the corticotropin releasing hormone. Again, it's stimulatory. So CRH stimulate ACTH from the anterior pituitary. Right. So far we discussed about the dopamine, prolactin inhibitory hormone, TRH, thyrotropin releasing hormone, corticotropin releasing hormone, CRH. Then GH. GH pituitary hormone is a growth hormone. GH means growth hormone. So you can understand growth hormone is really important for the growth. Right. For the growth hormone, we have growth hormone releasing hormone. So that is the main hormone for the growth. But not that important, but there's an inhibitory hormone also for the growth hormone. That is growth hormone inhibiting hormone, or other name is somatostatin, that inhibit the growth hormone. For the growth hormone, main player is a stimulatory hormone, but there's an inhibitory hormone also, right? So that is for the growth hormone. Then we have, for the reproductive system, we have FSH and LH. These are two hormones secreted from anterior pituitary for the male and female reproductive system. For the FSH and LH, important for the female as well as male. But what they produce in the gonads or reproductive system is different, estrogen and testosterone, right? So FSH and LH coming from anterior pituitary are under the control of GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone from hypothalamus, right? So now you can understand, I describe hypothalamic hormone, these hypothalamic hormone. What are they? Prolactin inhibiting hormone, dopamine, thyrotropin releasing hormone, TRH, corticotropin releasing hormone, CRH, gonadotropin growth hormone releasing hormone, and gonadotropin releasing hormone. And some minor hormone, growth hormone inhibiting hormone, no somatostatin, and there's a prolactin stimulatory hormone also, right? So considering all these hypothalamic hormone, main hormone which play inhibitory control is dopamine. Here also we have inhibitory, but that is not that important. For the growth hormone, stimulation is but this is prolactin is mainly controlled by a inhibitory mechanism, right? By a inhibitory mechanism, right? So that you need to understand, read it again leisurely, and you need to understand this hormone and their action, because that is the main endocrine control of pituitary hormone, right? So any questions about hypothalamic hormone, about this hormone? Anything you want to ask? මොනවද අහන්න තියනවද? Right? About pituitary hormone, next lecture, you will learn about the pituitary hormone, their action. But here, my main concern is hypothalamic hormone. Right? Okay. Right. So, this I explained about posterior pituitary hormone. I already explained ADH and oxytocin are the hormones secreted from posterior hypothalamus, but they will secrete to the posterior pituitary and come into this nerve tract, ADH and oxytocin. But there are two important nuclei, supraoptic nuclei and paraventricular nuclei. These are the two hormones important for this production of ADH and oxytocin. Right. So this is again important, clinically important fact. I already explained about the hypothalamus, right? So I already explained about the hypothalamus and explained about the pituitary, and then I explained about this communication, hypothalamo-pituitary communication, hypothalamo-pituitary portal system and hypothalamo-pituitary tract, hypothalamo-pituitary axis and hypothalamo-pituitary tract. If there is a damage to this tract, if there's a damage to this tract, and here, damage is here. As I mentioned in the very beginning, that is possible. After head injury or severe trauma, severe shock, might damage this communication. Because make a පොඩ්ඩක් නිකන් නැට්ටෙන් වගේ එල්ලීලා තියෙන දෙයක්. ආයි උඩට ගිහිල්ලා පෙන්නුවොත් නැට්ට යන්න බෑ. Right. So here you can see this is pituitary and this is hypothalamus. පොඩි නැට්ටක් වගේ එකකින් එල්ලෙලා තියෙනවා. It's a very narrow communication, so can get damage. If there's damage and we lost the communication of between hypothalamus and pituitary, when මේක වෙන්න පුළුවන්. If there's a damage, So tell me, if there is a loss of this communication for the anterior pituitary, what will happen to this hormone? Okay. So what will, if there is a loss of this communication, what will happen to the prolactin secretion? Okay. Pituitary is good, pituitary is working, but we lost this communication. Prolactin වලට මොකද වෙයිද? Prolactin level එකට මොකක් වෙයිද? Amount of prolactin. Sorry?
Increase.
Increase. Yes, very good. Because mainly prolactin is under the inhibition from the dopamine or prolactin inhibiting hormone. And all the other hormone, growth hormone, TSH, ACTH, and FSH, LH secretion will reduce because all these are under the stimulation, under the control of stimulatory hormone from the hypothalamus. So that is something you need to remember, right? Okay. So now let's say not this communication, if there's a damage to pituitary, that's also possible. Especially there's a condition called Sheehan syndrome after delivery. If there's a low blood supply, hypovolemic shock might damage the pituitary. And necrosis might occur, ischemia will occur. So if there's a damage to pituitary, what will happen to these pituitary hormone? Like ACTH, TSH, FSH, LH, growth hormone, මොනවා වෙයිද? There's a destruction of the pituitary. So what can happen to this pituitary hormone? What?
Will not be produced.
Sorry?
Will not be produced.
Yeah, will not produce because tissue damage, no tissue, no cells to secrete them. So all the hormone production will reduce if there's a pituitary damage, right? So if the pituitary hormone reduce, you will learn it later actually, the hormone produced by each gland will increase because there is a feedback inhibition. As example, thyroid gland secrete T3 and T4. If there's no TSH, these level will increase because they will try to push to the pituitary and try to secrete the more TSH. So these level will increase. Basically, if there's a pituitary damage, most of these hormone produced by other endocrine gland will increase because of this. They have feedback control, right? And that feedback control, of course, you will learn later under the each endocrine gland. So that is what will happen, right? So if there's loss of pituitary hormone, this damage and this damage, what will happen? Right. So now about hypothalamus, as I mentioned earlier, hypothalamus is some sort of commanding center for the pituitary. Hypothalamus will command pituitary for the anterior pituitary to the tropic hormone, for the posterior pituitary for the nerve tract, right? So hypothalamus is purely a neuronal organ. It belongs to central nervous system. So this hypothalamus get many information from other places. Other places from the brain will get information to the hypothalamus. So therefore, we can call hypothalamus is a center that interconnect nervous system and endocrine system. So it connect nervous system and endocrine system. So basically, middleman which connect the nervous system and endocrine system. And hypothalamus receive many signals from nerve signal from many places in the brain especially related to some sensing environmental factors, right? As example, some information related to external environment, some sensory information, some information related to internal environment will receive to hypothalamus. And depend on this information, hypothalamus decide what to do. So therefore, hypothalamus is a sort of middle man connecting endocrine system and nervous system. So what are the connection to hypothalamus? It connect to limbic system. You will learn about the limbic system under the neurophysiology, nuclei of the midbrain, tegmentum, and many other places, pons, cerebellum, medulla oblongata. So like that, many places in the brain connect hypothalamus and communicate with the hypothalamus to the neuron. So we already know hypothalamus is control the oxytocin and vasopressin secretion. So in addition to that, hypothalamus control the adrenaline and noradrenaline secreted from adrenal gland through the nerves, right? So hypothalamus is important controller of the autonomic nerve system, sympathetic, parasympathetic. Most of the hypothalamic neurohormone are secreted more than one anterior pituitary hormone. So it say that hypothalamic hormone, hypophysiotropic hormone actually might control more than one anterior pituitary hormone. But its main role is one hormone, but possibility of cross control is possible. Just to refresh you. So some of these hormone, let's say good example is I think TRH might control some other hormone, right? So here there's something called SRIF, hormone secreted from hypothalamus, which is not very well known and we don't discuss much. They might control TSH as well as growth hormone. Especially high control concentration of TRH might control other hormone. So like that, cross communication is possible, right? So that is that we don't discuss that much, but that remember there is a possibility of that. Other function of hypothalamus. So far, we learn about the endocrine function of hypothalamus, but it has some other function. One well-known thing is it controls the autonomic nerve system of whole body. That means sympathetic and parasympathetic system, especially sympathetic system, is under the control of hypothalamus. So probably you know that adrenal medulla. You learn in the advanced level, adrenal cortex secretes some hormone, adrenal medulla secretes some other hormone. So what are the hormones secreted by adrenal medulla? Advanced level matakaida. Adivukra majjava, right? Adrenal medulla. What are the hormones secreted by adrenal medulla? Adivukra majjava in Sinhala you learn. I'm sure in the Tamil nice word. One other hormone. Yes, matakaida. Adrenal medulla. Yeah, secrete the adrenaline, noradrenaline, and dopamine. Right. So there also we have dopamine. So autonomic nerve system through the hypothalamus control function of or secretion of adrenal medulla. That is one thing. Adrenal cortex is hypothalamus is important for autonomic nerve system. For the temperature regulation, it's very important. Right. So there's in our body we have thermostat. Right, thermostat. Well, you know, in the refrigerator and freezers, we have something called thermostat that determine the temperature of the body. So like that, in the we have hypothalamus thermostat that determine our temperature, and we can adjust that. When you get the fever, actually what happened? Hypothalamus readjust that thermostat and make it high level, right? So temperature regulation by the hypothalamus. Then regulation of thirst, hunger, sexual behavior are under the hypothalamus. Thirst, hunger, sexual behavior. So under the hypothalamus. Then fear, baya, rage, tarha, also hypothalamus important, right? So not only endocrine, some other functions, some other regulatory functions are under the hypothalamus. About thirst, because it's related to ADH, right? You know, we will learn it. Action of ADH is the reabsorption of water from the adrenal, renal, renal tubules, right? Collecting ducts. So that is the function of ADH, antidiuretic hormone, right? So ADH and thirst is related, right? So when we lost our, when the volume of fluid in our body reduce, that will detected by some receptors in certain places. One is osmoreceptor, right? Osmoreceptor, you can understand, it's related to osmolality. When the tonicity change, that means when the volume amount of fluid reduce, tonicity change, then tonicity increase, and osmoreceptor will stimulate and send impulse to hypothalamus, right? Osmoreceptor detect the osmolality. In the same way, we have volume receptor or baroreceptor in certain places that will detect the volume of blood, basically pressure. Volume of blood is related to pressure. It's a pressure receptor, volume receptor, and they also send impulse to hypothalamus. Both will determine fluid state of your body, right? Of course, you will feel thirst. If the fluid stays low, you will feel thirst, and hypothalamus get that feeling, and you will start to drink or stimulate the, you get the desire to drink. And same time, it secrete ADH. ADH will reabsorb more water from renal tubule, right? So that is how hypothalamus control the thirst, right? Thirst. Then this is from Gannon. You can read them about temperature regulation of the hypothalamus, and then secretion of catecholamine, adrenaline, noradrenaline, vasopressin, that means ADH, oxytocin, other hormone from posterior pituitary, and these are hormone from anterior pituitary under the control of hypothalamus, right? And then the receptors important for this regulation. You can see for the prolactin, touch receptor in the breast, and some other receptors. For the thirsty, osmoreceptor, volume receptor, and glucose level for hunger, and sexual behavior or some sense receptors. And these are the receptor important for the hypothalamic function. So finally, this is a diagram you need to think. And some of these content you will understand later. And this diagram will summarize how our brain control the whole body, right? So as example, this one, hypothalamus release hormone, then pituitary, and pituitary release this hormone. It's a one thing. About the vasopressin, that means secretion from adrenal medulla. This is about ADH, right? Posterior pituitary secrete ADH and control the water reabsorption. Then sympathetic system. Here you can see sympathetic system act on adrenal medulla, secrete epinephrine, norepinephrine. And then this renin-angiotensin system you will learn later. And this is motor function, and this is again some other muscle function, right? So basically this will summarize mechanism that we have, very broad system of mechanism to control how our brain control many places, endocrine and other places, right? So that's it. Any questions about this today's lecture? So basically, I discuss about the hypothalamus as a summary and function of hypothalamus and hormone secreted from hypothalamus, and we checked on anterior pituitary and communication between posterior pituitary, hypophyseal tract, oxytocin and ADH secretion. Then, and I discuss about the other function of the hypothalamus, like thirsty and control of autonomic nerve system and those things I discuss. So especially about this hypothalamus role for the control of autonomic nerve system, you will forget easily, right? When you sometime you might confuse how adrenal medulla, what is the mechanism that brain control adrenal medulla, because you know adrenal cortex is controlled by pituitary, ACTH, but medulla, mechanism that control medulla, you will forget. So that is through the nerve, through the hypothalamus. Okay. So if there is no questions, I will end the lecture. And so
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, what does simulate the prolactin hormone secretion?
You mean hypothalamus?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is important. Yes. Yeah, actually the prolactin is related to milk production, right? So there are, you will learn about the prolactin hormones, and there is a in the I think in the endocrine or reproductive system there is a lecture on prolactin, right? So there are several stimulation will stimulate prolactin secretion or actually inhibition, and that by that way it will be controlled by the hypothalamus, right? There are several stimulation and inhibition. So I will not discuss that because you will learn them under the prolactin. And growth hormone, you will learn under the growth hormone. So each hormone you will learn under the that section. So that is why I will not discuss them. Okay, you will learn them later.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right. Okay. So stop sharing, and this will end the lecture. Okay. Right. Have a nice day.